This is a short gerundive review. The gerundive is our future passive participle. We kind of reserve a special name for it because it does have some special usage. We're going to start off with amare. That's our infinitive. We're going to take off that re. This is where we've been getting our present stem for a long time. It's not that big a deal. To create the gerundive, we're going to add this ndus. Now, this nd is recognizable in the word gerundive. So this nd is really what signifies the gerund. Typically, the form that you're going to see for right now is nd plus a form of be is going to be translated as must be. So right here I have amanda est. So I have that nd form of a verb, and then I have a form of be in est. And this is going to create an obligation. Nd plus be is must be. If you take a look here, because it is singular and feminine, amanda, I make it she, and then must be, loved. Nd plus be must be. She must be loved. That is the literal translation. Now you hear me call this construction the gerundive of obligation or the passive periphrastic. There's more to this construction. Here's the total sum of this construction. You have a dative of agent like mihi, you have a nominative like puella, and then you have your gerundive of obligation amanda est. The translation of this, the girl must be loved by me. Now, we as Englishmen typically don't talk this way, so I need some help to get that into a more natural English. Let's put this up here, and let me show you what I'm going to do. In order for this to come out in English a little bit better, I'm going to use the dative as my subject, I'm going to make the verb active, and I'm going to make the nominative my direct object. And you, of course, everybody said, what? So we end up with, I must love the girl. And this is the way that we would prefer to translate this. We use that dative of agent first, I. And then we want to do the must be, must love, and then use that nominative puella as the direct object. In English, we like to use the active more than we like to use the passive. So think of this as, I'm going to use the dative as my subject, I'm going to make the verb active, and then I'm going to make the nominative my direct object. Here are 6 examples. Now, as long as I'm following that, use the dative as my subject, we call that the dative of agent, this shouldn't bother us because a lot of these do not have nominatives with them. So for number 1, if I use mihi as my subject, I have I, then I use must be. This means to flee, and I create an active, so I end up with I must flee. The literal translation is, it must be fled by me. That doesn't make too much sense in English. I can say it in 3 words, or I can say it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. So that's why we really want to work on using that dative as the subject, creating an active voice verb, and using the nominative as the direct object. I want you to try to do these last 5, and then I'll give you the answers. For number 2, we must walk. Literal translation, it must be walked by us. I'd much rather say we must walk. For number 3, you have you must stay here. Again, the dative is tibi. So it's going to be what I use as a subject. I'm going to turn mundendum est into an active, must stay, and then hic I have left over. Number 4, I have the slaves must work diligently. Servus is dative. I have the gerundive of obligation, laborandum est. I'm going to make that active, must work, and then I have diligently left over. So the slaves must work diligently. Number 5, I have all slaves must be quiet because the priest approach. Here what we have is we have the gerundive of obligation and then a conjunction and adding a regular sentence. Finally, number 6, I have if they wish to see the emperor, and then I have my passive periphrastic, my gerundive of obligation. Eis is dative, so they must hurry. So please remember that those datives, we call them dative of agents. We're going to use those as the subject. Whatever the nominatives are, we're going to use as the direct objects. And the amanda est is called a gerundive of obligation or passive periphrastic.